Today you're going to be completing an exercise with your oil pastels, learning a few techniques for mixing them. So you're going to need actually a pencil, your Sharpie, your oil pastels, and a piece of paper towel that'll be used for cleaning and for doing a little bit of blending, okay? So what I want you to have is, and you'll have to see whatever paper is required. I'm going to use just some regular white paper, and I have a piece of like scrap paper down in the back. You're going to take your piece of paper, so whether you're using white or gray, if you're given gray, you're using that. You're going to fold this in half, okay? So we're folding this in half. We're only going to be doing really the half, and what it'll do is it'll actually create a way for us to fold this over so the oil pastel is not bleeding around, okay? We're going to start by first drawing in pencil. We're going to draw an arc here, and then I'm going to lightly divide this in half, okay? And I'm doing it really light at first, and then what I'm going to do is on either side of that divider, I'm going to put a line creating like a long triangle, okay? On the end will be just a straight line, and then on either side of that, I'm going to create another triangle, kind of like a sun with some rays. And these will all be big. Look at how long they are. Do not make these short, okay, but sketch them on there. Once you have your 3 spikes in your arc, you're going to take your Sharpie, this is your fine point, and trace over. That'll create some sections for us to put our color combinations in, and then okay, now I've got my 3 sections. I'm going to erase away any of the pencil because I don't need that on there anymore, and I don't want it mixing with my lighter values. Okay, and then I'm going to get rid of all that eraser stuff so it's not mixing with my oil pastels. All right, now we're going to start with orange and yellow. We're going to do orange first here, and we're going to do kind of heavy so that we're not letting the white show through, so nice and heavy with the orange pastel. And then we're going to go, once we get a heavy band of orange, then we're going to lighten the pressure. So lighten, lighten, lighten. Heavy on the edge, then lighten, okay? And then we're going to use our yellow and first do the empty spot before we touch the orange. So we'll retain a little bit of that pure yellow, and then I'm going to go through the orange where I did light, and this is nice and heavy with this yellow. And I'm really sort of pushing the orange to mix, okay? Got orange and yellow. And I'm mixing with the oil pastel, okay? Now, there's a couple of ways you can mix, and I'm going to show you those on this one, and you can decide how you want to mix the other ones. What I will say is, once you dirty your oil pastel, I would clean it. So I'm going to wipe it with a paper towel to clean that orange off of there. So the next time I use it, if I'm using it with other colors, that it doesn't mix in there. And if they break, it's okay. You can use them broken. Okay, so one way to mix is just with your finger by pulling your finger across here lightly. What's actually happening is the friction is warming the oil in the oil pastel, and it blends through. So that's one way to mix. Another way is to wrap a piece of paper towel around your finger and mix that way, Okay, so that's the second way. You also, I've seen people use things like Q-tips and stuff like that. I really just like to mix with my finger. I mean, the thing is, once you get it on your finger, you got to wipe it off because you don't want to drag that color into other places. Okay, but I think it's the best way, but I'm going to leave that up to you. Okay, for the next one, I'm going to turn this. I just think it's easier when I'm pulling this direction. We're going to be using pink and violet. Okay, oh, I got to clean my bottle. We're going to start, we're going to be using a technique called stippling. Stippling is where we're actually pulling very short lines that should sort of look like a dot. So when I do this, I'm going to close this up a little. I'm putting my oil pastel down and I'm pulling it toward me, and then I'm picking it up. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stipple, and it's creating texture. So we're not going to mix this one the way we did the first one, but we're going to be mixing it by adding more color into it. Okay, so here we've got our violet, and we're going to work our way up, and I'm going to start allowing more white in between my stipples, and as I come up here, even more white, and right about here I'm going to stop. I don't want to go all the way to the end because the end is going to be pink, but in here it should be gradually less white showing until back here we're pretty much heavy stipple. Okay, so then we're going to go to our pink, and I'm going to start with the pure pink, stippling on this end. So here I'm doing close together, they're almost right on top of each other, but we still see the texture. I'm stippling, and because pink is so much lighter than violet, I'm going to pull it right through there, heavy, right through that violet. There we go. And it will be creating a value change from pink to violet as the colors are mixing. And so the stipples, and on some of these I'm sure I'm overlapping on the violet, which is fine, but I'm filling, so I have pretty much very little white showing. And once I get to the heavy violet, I'm stopping. But it should look like a gradual transition through. And if I have anywhere that's really light, I'm going to go put some more in there. That shouldn't see predominant white, it should be predominantly color. Okay. All right, so we have a value change using stipple from violet to pink. The next one I'm going to use is going to be red, orange, and yellow, and we're going to be mixing with hatching. So I'm going to start first at the top. It's the only time I'm going to go this direction because I want to get a nice seam just right there close to my sun, and I'm going to come down here like this, and I'm going to do hatching. Hatching is just pulling short lines. So I'm pulling, and I'm hatching. All right, so back here, very dense. I'm all pulling the same direction, pulling toward me. And then as I come down, I'm going to stop right in here. I'm going to lighten the pressure, still have a few hatches, and that's it. So I have about a third, that has heavy, then fading, and then I pushed a little bit past that with really light hatching. Okay, next I'm going to go to my orange, and I'm going to go in here where it's red. I'm going to overlap with my orange. Okay, so I'm heavy, but I'm stippling it in, so it's actually going to look kind of gradual. And then as I come down here, the red is running out. I've got a pretty heavy orange in here, and then I'm going to fade. Now, if there's lots of red still on there's not, but if there was lots of red on this, I would clean it, and then I'm going to fade to light here. I want to leave the very end empty, okay? And then I'm going to come in with my yellow, and I'm going to be doing the end here first where it's nice and clean because I want to make sure I keep yellow. And then I'm going to go back and I'm going to pull those hatched lines through the orange, and I'm going to go back pretty far in the orange. It also, this lighter value mixes. Here I'm dragging some of the red even. I'm all the way back there, and it's just making sure that every area is getting some coverage. Okay, and that's it. I'm not going to pull, oops, it looks like I picked up a little bit of black somewhere. I'm not going to pull this back to the yellow again because I don't want to lose my yellow. If I need yellow, I've got to wipe this off, or I'm going to use the other end just to make sure that we're filled there. But it should look like it's fading from red to orange to yellow. That's using hatched lines. I'm going to clean off my yellow. I don't have much left. I need it for one more. So the next one we're going to do is going to be dark green, fading to light green, fading to yellow. And we're going to stipple this one as well, but we're going to do a 3-color change. So here I'm going to start at the base, and I'm going to be using my dark green, and I'm going to be stippling tight together. Try to be really careful not to hit that orange. So I'm stippling, stippling, stippling. Tight, 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 and then I'm going to start letting them fade apart. So in here I'm coming in, and I'm going to start fading apart with my stipple. More white showing back here, really heavy and dense, and then fading apart. Okay. Okay, then I'm going to go in with my light green, and I'm going to peel this back. I try and leave the paper on as long as I can because it protects your fingers from getting all messy. And here I'm going to go in with my light green, and I'm stippling that. I'm going to fade through here. So heavy, heavy, heavy. Here I'm heavy mixing back in till I hit the really heavy green, and then I'm fading. Here, I'm going to leave that one spot, right? And then I'm going to go back to my yellow, and I'm going to do the top first. Heavy yellow at the top. Okay, and what I'm doing is I'm mixing analogous colors on this one. I'm doing green, yellow, green, and yellow. Those 3 colors sit next to each other on the color wheel, so they mix and transition really well. Here I did warm colors. Here I did violet, and then pink is really a version, it's a tint of red. So there was pretty much analogous colors, but using tints, because it's kind of a light violet. All right, so there's our 3 basics. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to do tints and shades of blue. So you're going to need black, blue, and white for this one. I'm just making sure mine are clean because I use them. All right. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to start, I'm going to back up a little bit out, and we're going to start sort of in the middle. So on this side, we're going to do middle, kind of heavy blue. Heavy blue in the middle. So when I'm saying middle, I've got from here to here. Oh, I don't really want to hit that. Let's scrape that back up. All right, so then on this end, I'm going to go heavy until I'm close in, and then I'm going to fade a little bit. I don't need to get all the way to the end. And then when I'm out here, I'm heavy in the middle, and then I'm going to start fading to light. And I'm going to let it fade. So I'm lightening the pressure with this, fading out, fading out, fading out. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same on the side so it's a match set. So I've got this area that's faded, then I'm going to go heavier pressure to match what's there. So heavier pressure right here, and then I'm fading out as I come in. All right, so I'm going to do black first. Black is going to be in this corner, heavy black. I'm trying to be really careful of what I'm hitting. And then as I come out on the blue, I'm going to lighten the pressure. So once I hit that area where it's together, I'm really lightening the pressure. And I'm going to leave it like that for now. And I'm going to go back here. I'm going to go heavy black back here. And then I'm going to fade. And for right now, I'm going to leave this like this, okay? We are going to back mix, but not yet. Then I'm going to take my white, and I'm going to start mixing in here where it was the light. And by putting that white on there, I'm making like a light blue. I shouldn't have any paper showing. This is nice and heavy. It's really mixing, and like as I'm going back and forth, I'm like actually heating by the friction from me rubbing on this. It's heating up the oil pastel, which also helps it mix. So when I hit the blue here, I'm going to overlap a little bit, not too much, but I'm going to overlap a little bit into that heavy blue, and I'm just going to pull to try and even this out a little bit. Okay. All right, now the last thing to do, and I'm going to clean this because I'm already done with the white, is I'm going to back mix with the blue. So I'm going to clean off my white. I'm done with that. And I'm going to come back in with blue, and I'm going to do a little bit of back mixing into the white. So I'm going to take my blue, and I'm just lightly rubbing into the white where they transition together, lightening the pressure, back mixing a little into this white, okay? And I'm doing white first because once I back mix into black, the tip is going to be really dirty, and I'm going to have to clean it before I do anything else. So here I'm making shades of blue, so blue plus black are shades, and here blue plus white are tints. So I'm just back mixing to smooth that. Now, I'm going to clean my blue, and I'm going to do a little bit of pulling with my fingers lightly to blend. Okay, so I'm using like my index finger for that one. I'm going to use a different finger to pull blue into white to seam that transition. And there, that is it. So we have shades to pure blue to tints. Okay, last one, and then we're going to do one step with black at the very end. We're going to use violet, brown, and peach. So those are the last three colors we haven't used yet. Okay. And the brown that we're using is like a burnt sienna, so it's really kind of a reddish color. We're going to start with that in the corner. And that color is going to, we're going to go dark in the corner because we can't really do our texturing. We're going to use a flowing line for this texture. So once we do that, we're going to start pulling flowing lines. Ooh, be careful, try not to hit that. I'm just going to scrape that off. The nice thing is, if you error, you can sometimes scrape it back off. Okay, so here we're tight and heavy, and we're doing flowing, like a scribbling line, like a waving line. And as I come out of here, I'm going to lighten the pressure and start spreading them apart. Okay. Back here, we're doing the same thing, so heavy, and when I have room, which is about right here, I'm going to start doing flowing lines. A little heavier there. Flowing lines, and I'm really letting them lighten and fall apart. Then I'm going to go in with violet, and I'm going to pull the same curving. I want to keep that curviness going, so I'm going to be overlapping where it's white in here and doing flowing lines. It's a little hard on the end. I'm trying to get into that edge. So when I'm close, I guess, to the marker line, I'm pulling straight right next to it, and then I'm flowing, okay? So flowing lines, heavy through this area where it's transitioning from one color to another. And then once I've got a pretty heavy area with violet, then I'm going to lighten the pressure. Still doing curving, flowing lines. So in here, heavy in here. I'm going to try and get rid of that white stuff. I really don't want too much of the white paper showing at all, really. So when I'm pulling these lines, I'm going heavy. I'm pushing heavy to create that like nice oily, waxy color put down. Okay, here we go. Okay, and then I'm going to lighten. So now I've got heavy in here. And I'm going to lighten, keeping it flowing. Okay, and I went right to the end. Next step is I'm going to use my peach. And I'm going to start down here first, where it has less color. And I'm going to be pulling these curving lines. And I'm pulling so many that I'm filling the white, but I'm still keeping that curving. What it does is when it starts picking up the violet, if I pull it, it is pulling it and still leaving a sort of like flowing line. So I want to make sure that I'm not just going straight, because even when I hit this and I'm pulling over it, it is going to be moving some of that oil pastel below. So I'm doing flowing lines, and I'm going to pull right into here, even as far back as where it's overlapping the brown, and I'm getting rid of the white, and I'm doing flowing lines, and it is going to color this. So when I'm on top of the brown and I'm on top of the violet, it is putting color into my peach. So it's not really peach up here because it's mixing, but it's like making sure that the texturing stays flowing is the most important thing, and then I'm getting rid of the white areas. Okay, now almost done. Last thing I'm going to do is this. So black is a really dominant color. I'm going to do a trace out in black that'll sort of make this stand out. So I'm going to take my black, and I'm going to do these first, because I think it's easier to pull. I'm going to trace on top of my Sharpie lines, nice and heavy and clean. If I notice that my black is picking up a lot of the other color on it, I may wipe it to keep it clean. So I'm going to do my 3 spikes first. I'll do this line too. This will also make sure if you missed any little area right on the edge, this will pick it up. Okay, and then I'm going to do my curve last. And that is it. So I would dust off any little bits that are hanging onto it, onto this paper. Okay, and this was our paper we put down beneath. I'm going to fold, I'm not just dumping this off, I'm going to fold this up and throw it away, okay, in the trash. I'm going to clean all of my pastels to make sure I don't have color mixes still on them. So I'm going to go through, clean those, and put those away. I'll photograph this for my submission. And then once it's photographed, I always want to hang on to my work until the end of the quarter or semester. I'm going to fold this in half. That'll protect the things in my art kit or folder. So this will get folded over on top of it, and I'll put that away and save it. But photograph and submit.